The road to the Midseason Championship is finally over. Hundreds of matches have been played, regional champions have been crowned, and after months of competition, only 16 teams remain. Over the next several days, the very best players from Korea, China, North America, EMEA, Japan, the Pacific, and South America will collide in pairs to answer one question that every Overwatch fan has been asking all season: who is the best team in the world? Welcome to Tank Talk, where today we're breaking down every team competing at the Midseason Championship, looking at their biggest strengths, biggest weaknesses, and where they stack up in the race for the trophy. We'll be working our way up from the bottom of the power rankings, separating the field into 3 tiers: the underdogs, the challengers, and the favorites. The tournament begins with 16 teams split into 2 double elimination groups. Only 4 teams from each group will survive to reach the playoffs, where every series becomes win or go home, and a single bad performance can end a championship run. With so many elite rosters packed into one event, the margin between success and elimination has never been smaller. So let's start at the bottom of the rankings, with the teams hoping to exceed expectations and prove they belong on the international stage. At the bottom of the power rankings sits 4 teams whose expectations are very different from everyone else's. Simply qualifying for the Midseason Championship is already a significant accomplishment, and while each roster is capable of producing the occasional upset, advancing to the playoffs would require an exceptional performance. For these teams, Paris is less about winning the tournament and more about proving they can compete on the world's biggest stage. The first team is 9Z Team, South America's lone representative. After an incredible run through Faceit League Masters, where they dropped just a single map across 13 matches, they firmly established themselves as the best team in their region. The problem is that South America has historically struggled against the world's elite, making it difficult to gauge just how strong this roster really is. Their dominance at home deserves respect, but until they prove it internationally, expectations have to remain modest. Representing the Pacific region is Team Secret, a roster that already exceeded expectations simply by qualifying for Paris. Their road to the Midseason Championship included a major upset, showing that they have the ability to surprise stronger opponents on the right day. Unfortunately, the level of competition only gets tougher from here. While several players have international experience, the Pacific region has yet to consistently challenge the traditional powerhouses, making another miracle run a difficult sell. China's newest international representative, AGAL, arrives with an intriguing mix of experienced veterans and rising talent. The roster has enough individual skill to remain competitive and could certainly steal maps from teams around the middle of the standings, but it still lacks the cohesion, experience, and proven star power needed to consistently challenge the tournament's favorites. More than anything, this event represents an opportunity to accelerate the team's development against the best competition in the world. Rounding out this tier is Varl, the longtime kings of Japanese Overwatch. Years of roster continuity and outstanding teamwork have made them the undisputed top term in Japan, but regional dominance doesn't always translate internationally. Japan remains one of the least competitive major regions in the OWCS ecosystem, leaving questions about whether Varl has the raw firepower necessary to keep up with the world's elite. They'll be well prepared and fundamentally sound, but this tournament may simply come too soon for them. The next tier is where the tournament begins to get interesting. Unlike the underdogs, these teams aren't just looking for international experience, they have a legitimate chance to reach the playoffs. While each roster has clear weaknesses that keep them from being considered favorites, they also possess enough talent to challenge anyone in the field. If everything comes together, they have the potential for a deep run, but if their flaws are exposed, an early exit is just as possible. No team better represents the boom or bust potential than Team Liquid. On paper, this roster has all the ingredients of a championship contender, combining elite mechanical talent with one of the most explosive DPS players in the tournament in Tree. Unfortunately, flashes of brilliance have too often been followed by frustrating inconsistency, preventing Team Liquid from putting together sustained success. If the team finds the ability it has lacked all season, it has the talent to upset almost anyone in Paris. Space Station Gaming finds itself in a remarkably similar position. Their players give North America one of the strongest collections of individual talent in the tournament, but consistency has repeatedly held the roster back. Few teams are capable of reaching Space Station's peak level, yet that version of the team rarely shows up. If they can maintain the top level throughout the entire tournament, they could be a threat to every championship contender. Representing China as the region's second seed, JD Gaming enters Paris with an opportunity to prove it belongs among the world's elite. The roster has steadily improved throughout the season, combining veteran experience with disciplined teamwork and dependable individual talent. While they may not possess the overwhelming firepower of the tournament favorites, JD has become an increasingly difficult to beat team and has all the tools necessary to push any opponent that underestimates them. Few organizations carry as much history in professional Overwatch as the Dallas Fuel. Since joining the OWCS, they've quickly re-established themselves as one of North America's premier teams, through disciplined play, strong fundamentals, and a roster that has adapted well to shifting metas. They may not have the highest ceiling in the tournament, but their consistency and experience makes them one of the most dangerous teams outside the top tier. If one of the favorites stumble, Dallas is well positioned to capitalize. China's top seed, Weibo Gaming, enters with one of the most mechanically gifted lineups in the tournament. The DPS duo of Shai and Leave is capable of taking over any series, giving Weibo a ceiling that rivals almost anyone in Paris. The lingering question is whether the team can finally replicate its domestic dominance on the international stage. Previous LAN appearances have ended in disappointment, and until that changes, it's difficult to place Weibo among the tournament's true favorites despite its undeniable talent. Rounding out the challengers is GK Esports, perhaps the team that has improved the most since the start of the season. Smart roster additions have dramatically raised the team's ceiling, transforming GK into a legitimate threat not only within EMEA, but internationally as well. Their success can still depend heavily on favorable metas and hero pools, but when those conditions align, GK has already shown it can compete toe-to-toe with some of the best teams in the world. The difference between these teams and those previously discussed come down to expectations. These rosters aren't just happy to be in Paris, they expect to compete for the playoffs and have the talent to knock even a favorite into the lower bracket. But the next 6 teams are aiming even higher. We've officially reached the upper echelon of the tournament, where every team has a legitimate chance to win the championship. At this level, the margins are razor thin, with individual mistakes, adaptation, and consistency often deciding the difference between an early exit and a title run. We'll start with Team Falcon, a roster that not too long ago looked like one of the best teams in the world. Since then, injuries and roster instability have raised more questions than answers. Even so, Falcons remains loaded with elite talent and backed by one of the strongest coaching staffs in professional Overwatch. Their ceilings may not be quite as high as in earlier seasons, but writing them off would be a mistake. Next is Twisted Minds, the defending Midseason champions and one of the most experienced teams attending this event. Championship experience is something that can't be taught, and this roster has proven time and time again that it can perform under pressure. Hitscan player Quartz continues to be one of the world's most dangerous players, capable of taking over a match almost single-handedly. While Stage 2 exposed a few weaknesses and raised questions about the team's flexibility across different metas, any roster with this much experience deserves to be taken seriously. Representing EMEA as the region's number 1 seed is Virtus.pro, arguably the strongest Western team in the tournament. Throughout the season, they've steadily improved, making bold roster decisions that have paid off in spectacular fashion. More importantly, Virtus.pro has shown an ability to succeed across a wide variety of metas without sacrificing its identity, a trait very few teams can claim. Their combination of adaptability, discipline, and mechanical talent makes them one of the safest bets to reach the championship. For years, T1 has looked like a championship-caliber roster searching through its breakthrough moment. This season, it finally feels like that has arrived. The team has continued to improve with every stage, becoming noticeably more consistent while maintaining one of the deepest rosters in Korea. Their biggest obstacle has never been talent, but delivering under the pressure of the biggest matches. If they finally overcome that mental hurdle, T1 has everything it needs to win the Midseason Championship. If pure mechanical skill determined championships, Zeta Division might already have the trophy. The roster possesses one of the highest ceilings we've ever seen assembled, and their only lingering concerns have been composure. Momentum has very often dictated their performances more than their opponents, causing disappointing exits despite overwhelming talent. If Zeta stays confident and composed throughout the tournament, there are very few teams capable of matching them in a long series. Finally, there's Crazy Raccoon, the team everyone else is trying to beat. After a brief adjustment period earlier in the season following several roster changes, they've once again established themselves as the benchmark for professional Overwatch. World-class talent at every position, exceptional adaptability, and years of championship experience make Crazy Raccoon the most complete roster entering Paris. They're just as comfortable grinding out slow, methodical victories as they are overwhelming opponents through sheer mechanical skill. Simply put, they're the favorites for a reason. Anything short of a grand finals appearance would be viewed as a disappointment, and if another team wants to lift the trophy, there's a very good chance they'll have to go through Crazy Raccoon to do it. This leaves us with a fascinating championship picture. 6 teams enter Paris with a legitimate chance of winning it all, but only one can live up to those expectations. Whether it's Virtus Pro continuing its remarkable rise, T1 finally breaking through, Zeta Division fulfilling its enormous potential, or Crazy Raccoon defending its place at the top of the world, the road to the championship promises to be one of the most competitive international tournaments Overwatch has ever seen. With every team covered, it's time to put these rankings to the test. The group stage may be double elimination, but with only 4 playoff spots available in each group, there's very little room for error. In Group A, I'm predicting T1, Virtus Pro, Twisted Minds, and Team Falcons to advance. T1 and Virtus Pro have been among the most consistent teams in the world throughout the season and enter Paris as legitimate championship contenders. Twisted Minds' championship pedigree should be enough to carry them through a difficult group, while Team Falcons still has too much talent and experience to count out despite recent setbacks. That leaves Weibo Gaming, Dallas Fuel, and Team Liquid narrowly on the outside looking in, although none of these teams would be surprising playoff qualifiers if they find their best form. Group B appears slightly more straightforward. Crazy Raccoon and Zeta Division are clear favorites to reach the playoffs, while GK Esports and JD Gaming round out my predicted top 4. GK has looked revitalized since its roster changes, and JD Gaming has quietly developed into one of the tournament's most reliable teams. The biggest threat to these predictions is undoubtedly Space Station Gaming. Their ceiling is high enough to eliminate any team in the group, but until they prove they can consistently perform on the international stage, it's difficult to place them ahead of the teams above. Once the playoffs begin, however, everything changes. Every remaining roster will be capable of beating anyone else on the right day, and momentum often becomes just as important as raw skill. Still, 2 teams stand above the rest. Crazy Raccoon enter Paris as a favorite thanks to its unmatched combination of talent, experience, and adaptability, while Zeta Division possesses perhaps the highest mechanical ceiling of any roster in the tournament. If both teams perform to their potential, a grand finals meeting between the 2 Korean giants could be a fitting conclusion to the Midseason Championship. Of course, that's why we watch the game. Every international tournament produces unexpected heroes, heartbreaking upsets, and at least one team that completely rewrites the narrative. Whether it's Virtus Pro proving the West can still compete for championships, T1 finally delivering on years of potential, or one of the challengers making an unforgettable run, there are countless ways this tournament could unfold. One roster will survive the toughest competition Overwatch has to offer, lift the Midseason Championship trophy, and earn the title of the best team in the world. If you enjoyed this preview, let me know your own predictions in the comments below. Which team do you think is going to win the Midseason Championship, and who do you think is being overlooked? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you after the tournament to find out just how right or wrong these predictions turned out to be. This was Tank Talk, and thank you for watching.